Yo, what's up, guys? So I want to show you how I make a full song today. This is the song we're going over. We're going to go over arrangement, tips, secrets, tricks, and how I make a song from intro to build to drop to middle drop. Ah. Ooh, yes. So let's get into this. When I started this song, I started with the drop. When I started with the drop, this whole section was basically over here at the 1. And I moved it to the 33 later on. Usually the drop is like at the 33. It's a good point for the drop. But of course, you can move it later. It's like the 49 or the 17, whatever you want, depending on how you're flowing that day. For the basses, I did a simple call and response. So we started with a growl. Everything's written in D, so everything's at D0, all these basses. The whole thing here is this drop section is going to be the loudest part of the song. There's going to be very minimal mastering. There's really just this OTT, more high-end, doing minimal. And then right after that growl, we have this bass that comes up. So we have a call, and then this is a response. Now, after that call and response, we have another growl, which leads into this next response. These are different rates. So like this is just a regular long bass. And then these are like triplet notes, like 1/8 triplet. This is like quarter notes. So I'm doing different speeds for basses as I'm going through the drop. Now I add these like chop basses. These are like chugs in the background just to add more head bang motion. It'll be like... And you want to do that. You want to add basses to the offbeat so that people can headbang harder. You see more chugs right here. So throughout the drop, I'm going to be thinking like call, response, and then background chugs just to like move the track forward. And then when I hear like cool OTT reverb tails, like from one of these, for example, hear that tail? What I'll do is make a new audio, I'll resample it, make sure it's soloed, make sure this is recorded, hit record. And then you have like this new tail sound, right? You just cut it, and then you can use this tail sound as a new sound. So this is what I did in this section right here. See tail dog? Yep. So I use this tail as like a new bass, basically. Didn't mess with it at all, just normal. Here's another background bass right here. We'll add like a random chant as well. Like this is like a little fill section that's leading on to this next phrase. Because if you look from this is 8 bars from the beginning of the drop to this fill section. So this fill section leads on to this next part. And then to start it off, we have a new growl. So instead of this growl, I use this growl. And then, so that was the call, right? We have some lasers for the background chugs. And you have a new bass, the sustain bass. You see there's another chug in the background. So once again, call, response, background chugs. And you see I'll switch between the speeds of the basses. So you have a sustain going, then we have the call, and then the new response is going to be this quarter note. This is a different bass than the other quarter note. It sounds different, so the listener doesn't get bored. And that is the pattern that I'm doing. Call, response, background chugs. If you look here, the sub, if you look at my last video, you can watch how to make a custom sub. And this is how I made the sub here. So basically I can make my sub however I want. It's fat and clean, just how I need it. And in the background, we have like a riser just to keep the drop moving. Extra chance. This is basically background chugs. And then we have atmosphere to fill out all the empty space. Because before I had this, it was pretty empty. If you listen without it. It sounds like there's empty space, like it's missing something. So we added some background tension. And it kind of puts it in its own space. Cool. Well, this is the drop. As you see here, I just built it up again. Quick build up. And then lead into a new drop. But I want to show you guys how I made the melody sections. So if you listen to when the drop plays, you'll hear this saw on every downbeat. And the chord progression is moving the drop along very well. Without it, it sounds like this. With cool. So those are the chords in the drop. I put them down in volume and they're kind of like in the background, but you can still hear them. You can still feel them. Most importantly, that chord progression is important. These are D minor chords. Remember, we're writing in D. So this first chord is the D minor chord. If you look at our scale, look at D minor. These are the notes that we can use. So the D minor chord is just 1, 3, and 5. We're skipping every one. So the first chord starts at D, second chord starts at E, third chord starts at F, and of course you would just skip to make those triad chords like I'm using here. So that's a technique that we did at the intro. After I made the build, I was like, okay, we're in D minor, let's make some keys. I got an Omnisphere patch. And at first I wrote these 3 chords. So what I did here is I got the D, I started at the home, I skipped one, I went down our scale to the C. Now, you can use any of the notes that were in that scale, like I just showed you, this scale here, and you'll be in key. You can also hit scale over here, go D minor, and you can use these to make sure that all your notes are perfectly in key. So you make new chords using these notes. And you want to make a chord progression, so it's a loop, basically, and when you come back home, it'll sound perfect. Now, you can Google chord progressions. You can look at common chord progressions like these, like 1, 6, 7, 1, 6, 3, 7. And you can use these chord progressions in your scale, to make something dope. Now, what I did here at the bottom was I just copied the bass note, and I used these notes down here at the octave to like fill out the frequency range with the piano. All right, now when I was making this song, the whole technique to the melody section was we need a couple different parts. And I got inspiration from like the emo punk type songs, which have an arp, they have their chords, and they have their lead, and of course the bass. So what we did was we got our chords first, then we got our arp. So the way you make an arp is you do the same chord notes, but you make them fast. So like fast melody using the chord notes. So see, if you look at this section, this one measure has 1, 2, 3, 4 notes in it, and they're going up then down the scale. So it's repeating up and down the scale. And then after 2 bars, then we go down the scale and we go to D instead of the F, and we do the same thing. In this measure, 1, 2, 3, 4, up, down, and then you can check, of course, the minor scale, and you'll see that these are all in the key. So it'll sound all perfect together. You stay in key, so when you add your harmony, melody, and lead, they all sound perfect and will sound very nice. Cool, so you got your arp with your chords. They're just repeating. Now, I also put some atmosphere just in the background. It was at F minor, so I pitched it down to D. Okay, cool. So remember those bass notes in our chord? These right here. These notes. You use these notes, you copy them, and then you make a new like subsection. So you have your subwoofer here, you have your respace here. So those same exact bass notes you can put right here. So this is the res for like the mid basses in the middle, and then this is for like the low basses. Sub, so they're all playing the bass notes of the chord, and they're repeating. So those are the melodies in the intro, and then of course you have just simple drums, kick, clap, and of course sidechain at the top. A perk, a clap. building up. So you'll see this clap is building up to a new section, and you'll hear the effects. They're sweeping up as well to the new section. Now, as soon as this new section starts after 8 bars, we have a lead come in, which I'm going to show you. But most importantly, we have these vocals come in. So there's multiple layers. And of course, these are all in D minor. So the original was at E. So we had to pitch down to D. And we layered. So we have a high-pitched one. We have the main one in the middle. We have a low one that's pitched down. So you'll layer up the vocals. And I chopped them up like this to make it sound unique. Cool. So then now when you have your harmonies playing in the background, you can add a lead. And it's pretty easy to make it sound amazing because it's going to sit perfectly on top of all those harmony. And with the lead, you don't have to worry about chords. You can just use single notes and make a nice little melody. So I just had my keyboard and I was just playing around while it was playing. And same thing. So after the 8 bars, a new section comes. We use these sweeps to move up into the new section. The vocals start changing. This is like a little fill right before the new section. And of course, this is like... So this is the break. So I chop up the vocal differently. We have a little riser now, rising up because we're at the breakdown. It's going to go to the build soon, and then the drop. So in the break here, we basically start changing up the sub. So see it goes down, and then it just goes back up. For the sub, we introduce new brass. With these brass, I pitch them down to the note here. So see how these notes are going boom, 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 boom. The brass is matching the exact notes. Cool. Now, as soon as the break starts, I have an LFO rise. Now, I made a previous video showing how to make this LFO rise. You use the rate of this auto pan to bring it down. Check out my previous video, crazy LFO video, how to make this. But as the breakdown starts, this is what we use to like kind of bring it down and make a really cool effect. And you see, the ARP is still going, but this frequencies, it's starting to filter out with the frequencies so you can hear it less as it moves on. And then if you look at the original chords, we do the chord progression right here, and then it ends at the home chord. And then it just stays sustained. I keep the melody, but I change the melody up. And then the melody starts to loop and pitch up. And while this is pitching up, it's pitching up with all these drums, right? So when the break starts, all these like build drums will start to come in, which you can hear. Now on the drum group, it's filtering with this auto filter. So you see I layered like a build loop with all kinds of different snares and claps that I gathered together. And I see here we make different rhythms to speed it up. Got a build kick as well, and we have the sidechain going too. And of course, with the effects, you just have risers going on. You have downlifters, risers, just building up the tension. Damn! Yes. And there we go. That is how you make a drop from intro to build to drop. You already know what it is. Now, if you want to see more of this, leave it in the comments. If you want me to release the song, let me know. Me and my friend are working on this right now, and it's turning out pretty cool. But yeah, that's all we got today. Hope you guys enjoyed this. And hit me up if you want more. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Have a good night. Peace.